I overheard my wife drunkenly tell her friends. He thinks he's the breadwinner? I make more selling pics online than he makes in a year. They mocked me like a joke. I just smiled. But months later, she found out who was really paying her rent. Me, 42M, overheard my wife, 35F, telling her friends she makes more selling pics online than I make in a year. They laughed at me. Months later, she found out who was really paying her rent. He really thinks he's the breadwinner? Sierra laughed, swirling a wine glass in one hand, her voice already tinged with that slur she got after her second drink. I make more selling pics of myself than he makes in a whole damn year. The living room erupted in laughter. One of her friends said something like, "Wait, he doesn't know?" And Sierra added, "Nope. He thinks I do wedding photography." I was in the garage, maybe 20 feet away. The interior door cracked open just enough for sound to travel. I had just come back from grabbing something from the truck and was about to walk in when I heard my wife and her two friends mocking me. I stood still, holding a roll of duct tape in one hand, staring at the concrete floor like it had answers. They laughed for a few more minutes. About my job, my dad bod. The way I packed her lunch sometimes. I heard Kayla say, "You should tell him to start an OnlyFans too. Maybe y'all could finally afford a real vacation." I didn't make a sound, didn't slam the door, didn't storm in. I just turned, walked back to the truck, and sat in silence, engine off, staring at the steering wheel. I'm Neil. I'm 42. I've worked as a licensed electrician in Tacoma for almost 2 decades. Not glamorous, but it's honest work, and it always pays the bills. I met Sierra 6 years ago in Portland at a buddy's engagement party. She was working the bar, laughing with everyone, owning the room like she'd been hired just to charm people. I was immediately drawn in. Sierra was magnetic, confident, carefree, and quick-witted. She called me blue-collar hot, and I didn't even know how to take that. We started seeing each other almost right away. A year later, we got married. That's how fast it all happened. The early years were good, really good. We moved in together in a modest rental and eventually bought a small house just outside Tacoma. I handled most of the finances. Sierra said she didn't care about money, just about freedom. That freedom led her to pick up a camera. Photography, she said, was her calling. At first, she took family portraits, weddings, newborn sessions. She hustled hard. I was proud of her. I helped her build a website, printed business cards, even fixed up a small home studio. Over time, she said the work got boring and she wanted to focus on creative shoots. I didn't ask questions. She said she was exploring boudoir photography, which made sense. Some of the shots I saw on her laptop were tasteful, artsy, and well-lit. I figured she was just empowering other women. That's what she told me, anyway. Then, about a year ago, I noticed changes. She was out of the house more, especially on Friday nights. Always with Kayla and Jen. She bought new clothes, tight ones, expensive brands. New makeup, perfume, handbags with names I didn't recognize but assumed cost a fortune. When I asked where the money was coming from, she said she had a few new high-end clients. I didn't push. She always said I was too serious, too 1950s dad in my way of thinking. So I let her be. I went to work, came home, cooked, fixed things, and made sure our lives ran smoothly. I handled the bills, even gave her a small monthly allowance when she said her payments were inconsistent. Then came that night. The night I heard her and her friends laughing at me like I was some clueless sitcom husband. The next morning, I acted like nothing happened. I made coffee, packed her a breakfast sandwich, kissed her on the forehead, and waved goodbye when she left for a shoot. But something inside me had shifted. I couldn't hear her words. I couldn't forget the laughter. That's when I started digging. At first, I just checked our joint account. Nothing strange. Her deposits were small and erratic, just like she claimed. Then I checked our internet router. Even with incognito mode, there were traces, URLs, cookie trails. A few were linked to a site I'd never heard of, something called SPX Content. I Googled it. Not a photography site. Not even close. It was a content platform, the kind of place where people sell explicit photos and videos, direct to subscribers, anonymous and unregulated. The site had a sleek, polished interface. I created a burner account and searched through profiles. Took me less than 5 minutes to find her. There she was, my wife, posing under a fake name. Her profile was filled with photos. Not just risque. Some were explicit, detailed, and shockingly professional. She'd always said she hated taking selfies, yet there she was, posing for what had to be hundreds of custom requests. Videos, chats, subscriptions. She even had a bio, just your artsy girl next door sharing her unfiltered side kiss mark DM me for special requests. My throat went dry. I kept scrolling. I shouldn't have, but I couldn't stop. Then I saw the top supporters list, usernames, anonymous, but one stood out. It was me. Months earlier, I'd helped a friend test out a crypto payment platform, and I'd set up a digital wallet tied to a username I barely remembered. I never closed the account. When I matched the transactions to the bank statements, my blood went cold. I had been one of her top subscribers. She was unknowingly getting money from me. The rent, the groceries, the allowance I gave her when she claimed things were slow, that was my money. Sent through a loop of wallets, platforms, and fake names. I had literally been paying her to humiliate me. And she didn't even know. At work, I was distracted, cutting wires too short, mislabeling panels, getting lost in thought at job sites. I wasn't angry in the explosive, yelling way. It was deeper than that. A quiet, soul-sinking kind of betrayal that seeps into your bones. I couldn't figure out what hurt more, what she was doing, or how casually she mocked me for it. But I wasn't going to lash out. I wanted clarity. I wanted to understand the whole picture before I made a move. So I kept watching. Not in a stalkerish way, just observant. Her habits, her mood, the way she'd change out of sweatpants into lingerie as soon as she got home under the pretense of trying on outfits for a shoot. She had a separate laptop she used at night, never password protected. I went through it when she was out with friends again. What I found was a goldmine, messages from clients, requests for custom content, a running list of prices. She was organized about it. She had spreadsheets, schedules, and notes. Some of the messages from subscribers were sleazy. Others were unsettlingly intimate. A few sent her gifts through Amazon wishlists. I saw that leather jacket she said her cousin bought for her. That gifted camera lens too. She was running a small adult business empire right from our living room. She'd even taken some of her content in our bedroom, on the couch, even once in my work truck. She blurred out backgrounds, added filters, edited out identifiers. But I recognized the angles, the rugs, the curtains. And yet, to my face, she played the doting, quirky, creative wife. We still had dinner together. Still watched Netflix. She still kissed me goodnight. But it was all hollow. Like I was some placeholder in a life she'd long since outgrown. A few weeks after the discovery, I stopped making excuses for her in my mind. There was no misunderstanding. No miscommunication. She knew exactly what she was doing. She just thought I was too dull to catch on. So I started preparing. I opened a new bank account at a credit union on the other side of town. Transferred my paychecks. Opened a P.O. box. Slowly, quietly, I began moving important documents out of the house. Title to the truck. Tax forms. My birth certificate. I didn't want to make a scene. I didn't even want to confront her. Not yet. Instead, I went along with the routine. Packed her lunch. Fixed the broken faucet. Smiled at her stories about crazy clients. I think she mistook my silence for cluelessness. Or maybe she just didn't care anymore. Eventually, I got tired of pretending. One evening in January, I told her I needed space. Said I'd been feeling disconnected and wanted to clear my head. No accusations. No fights. Just a tired man expressing emotional fatigue. She barely argued. Just said, if that's what you need, and went back to watching some reality show on the couch. I packed a duffel bag and moved into a small rental on the outskirts of Tacoma. One bedroom, older place, smelled faintly like old pine and drywall dust. I paid 6 months up front. She never asked where I got the money. Funny thing was, she didn't seem that upset. Almost relieved. Probably thought she'd finally have space to focus on her business. She kept posting online like everything was fine, filtered selfies, behind-the-scenes teases, feeling free captions. She still thought the money would keep rolling in. But it didn't. Because about 2 weeks after I moved out, I stopped sending payments through the anonymous wallet. No more crypto transfers. No more subscription renewals. No more Amazon wishlist surprises. At first, I think she assumed it was a glitch. I saw a post she made on one of her accounts about being throttled and shadow banned. Then she posted a meme about broke men who ghost after draining your time. She had no idea she was talking about me. She even reached out to the burner account. Hey, haven't seen you in a while. Miss your support winking face, she wrote. I didn't respond. Over the next month, I watched from a distance as her confidence started to crack. The luxury bags stopped appearing. Her tone online shifted. She started offering discounts. Then package deals. Then she started selling prints for cheap. She called me twice. I ignored both. A week later, I got an email. She'd been late on rent. She needed help. Said she was reevaluating her finances and might need to make some tough choices. She asked if I could float her just this once. Said it was only temporary. I still love you, she added at the end, like some sort of emotional footnote. I didn't answer. That weekend, I drove by the house. Her car was in the driveway. The porch light was off. I saw her through the window, sitting on the couch in a hoodie, hunched over her phone. No wine glass. No laughter. No friends. I went home, my new home, and made dinner in peace. She messaged me again a few days later, asking if we could meet, just to talk. Said she missed the life we had. Missed me. That she'd made mistakes and maybe taken things too far. I haven't responded yet. Not because I'm unsure, but because I'm watching something unravel that she built on deception, and I don't need to lift a finger. And she still doesn't know just how deep I saw into it. She called again. This time I picked up. Not because I wanted to hear her voice, but because curiosity finally outweighed indifference. I wanted to hear how she'd spin things now that her comfortable illusion was starting to crumble. Neil, she said, sounding breathless. Thank you for answering. I didn't know if you'd ever. I didn't say anything. Just wait. I. I just wanted to talk. In person. Please. A long silence stretched between us. I could hear her swallow. I know things have been weird. And I know I haven't been fully honest. But I'm going through something. And I think I just got lost in it all. Still, I stayed silent. It felt like the safest way to let her talk herself into corners. She filled the space nervously. I got in over my head, Neil. I thought I could handle it, but it's not what I thought. It's lonely, and fake, and just draining. I didn't realize how much I missed real things. I miss you. I miss our life. Our stupid little rituals. That line almost got me. Stupid little rituals. She meant Sunday pancakes, Tuesday grocery runs, folding laundry while watching reruns. The kind of things that made up real love. But I held the line. Can we just talk? She asked again. Please. I agreed. Not because I wanted reconciliation, but because I wanted to see her face when the truth caught up to her. We met at a neutral place. A small diner we used to go to when we were first dating. It was mostly empty. The kind of place with cracked leather booths and the smell of old coffee soaked into the walls. She looked tired. No makeup. Hair in a messy bun. Hoodie 2 sizes too big. I barely recognized her. She gave me a tentative smile. Hi. I just nodded and sat down across from her. She reached across the table as if to take my hand. I didn't move mine. Neil, I know I messed up, she began. I let things get out of control. And I know you probably know some of it. Some of it. That told me everything I needed to know. She still thought she could manage the damage. I shouldn't have lied, she said. And I shouldn't have laughed. I was drunk and stupid. I didn't mean it. It just came out. I raised an eyebrow. She flinched, just a little. It wasn't about the money, she said, quieter. At first it was just fun. Extra income. Something different. But it got bigger, and people started recognizing me. And it felt validating. That word, validating, stuck in my head. I finally spoke. Did you feel validated when you used our bed? Or when you said I was clueless and pathetic to your friends? Her mouth opened slightly, but nothing came out. I heard you, I said. That night, in November. I was in the garage. The color drained from her face. Her hand dropped to her lap. I didn't know, she whispered. I figured. You were too busy performing for your audience. She blinked quickly, like she was trying not to cry. But I knew Sierra. Those weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of consequence. I didn't mean to hurt you, Neil. You just didn't care if you did. That landed harder than I expected. She shrank into herself. I thought you'd never find out, she admitted. I kept thinking, as long as it wasn't in your face, it didn't count. That was the truest thing she'd said so far. She glanced around the diner like someone might overhear us. Even though we were the only ones there besides an elderly couple near the window. I started losing money, she said quietly. My top subscribers disappeared. It's like they just vanished. I thought the platform had flagged me or something. My payments dried up. That's when things started falling apart. I leaned back in the booth. So that's why you wanted to talk now? Her eyes flicked up. No. I wanted to talk because I miss you. I didn't respond. I know I don't deserve anything, she said. But I wanted to at least try and apologize. Do you even know who your top subscriber was? I asked. She blinked. No. They used some random handle. What? I stared at her for a long moment. Watching the gears turn. Watching her connect dots. And then it clicked. Her jaw slowly dropped. Eyes widened. She didn't speak, but I could see it. The realization bloomed behind her eyes. The silence was louder than anything either of us had said. You, she finally said, voice barely audible. I nodded once. I paid your rent. Your credit card minimums. Your celebration dinners. All through that wallet. And when I stopped, everything fell apart. She looked like someone had unexpectedly punched her. Her face flushed red, then pale, then red again. I didn't know, she said, almost pleading. You didn't want to know. She started to say something else, but stopped herself. Her hands were shaking now. Not with fear, but humiliation. And I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel smug. I just felt done. She sat there, shoulders hunched forward, the weight of her choices settling in for the first time without the cushion of denial. Why didn't you say anything? She asked finally. I wanted to see how far you'd go. And she had gone far. Far enough to dig her own grave with designer heels and camera filters. Far enough to burn a marriage for the approval of strangers behind a screen. We sat in silence again. The waitress brought the check. I took it and dropped a few bills on the table. Sierra didn't even glance at it. I can't fix this, can I? She asked, voice cracking. I didn't answer. Because she already knew. She messaged me 2 days later. A long one. Rambling, apologetic, filled with the kind of self-pity people mistake for vulnerability. She said she'd been thinking about everything. Our conversation, the reveal, her choices. She kept using words like confused, lost, and broken. What she didn't use. Words like accountable, selfish, or cruel. I didn't respond. Instead, I started the process of untangling the last parts of our shared life. Our finances were already mostly separated. My new bank account had been active for months. The utilities were split. The house, though, that was the last anchor. The house was technically in both our names, but I had paid the majority of the down payment. The mortgage had come from my income. I had the receipts, the tax records, and the paper trail. I wasn't about to fight dirty, but I wasn't going to roll over either. I reached out to a lawyer, someone I'd worked with once years ago when I helped my cousin through a rough separation. She was kind, but didn't sugarcoat things. Given what you've shown me, she said after looking through my notes and screenshots, you've got a strong position, but don't expect remorse for equal cooperation. People don't like losing control of their narrative. She was right. Sierra dragged her heels on every step. One week, she wanted mediation. The next, she ignored paperwork. Then came the messages from her friends. Kayla messaged me on Instagram, which I hadn't used in years, to say I was being emotionally manipulative for not giving Sierra a second chance. Everyone makes mistakes, she wrote, followed by a paragraph about how intercourse work is work and that I should be grateful for a woman as liberated as Sierra. I didn't respond to her either. Jen, the other one, posted some passive-aggressive quote in her story about men who are intimidated by powerful women. None of them knew the whole truth. Or maybe they just didn't care. Maybe they were all complicit in the lie Sierra was selling herself. That what she did wasn't betrayal. That secrets and mockery didn't count if money was involved. But Sierra's tone started changing. The messages got quieter, shorter, less defensive. She stopped asking to talk and started asking logistical questions. When do you want to list the house? Should we split the storage unit? Do you want to keep the couch? I could tell she was unraveling in real time. I hadn't responded to her emotionally in weeks, and it was finally hitting her that the curtain had dropped. Her confidence, that inflated, curated persona she wore like armor, was gone. I remember one message, late one night, that simply said, I thought I had control. I didn't realize I was disposable too. That one gave me pause. Not because I pitied her, but because it was the first honest thing she'd said since this all started. The next week, I went back to the house. She wasn't there. We had arranged separate times to sort our stuff. I walked through the front door like a guest. It didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a stage set after the actors had gone home. Half the furniture was missing. The fridge was nearly empty. The walls were bare, her framed photos taken down. The bedroom still smelled faintly like her perfume, but the closet was mostly cleared out. I went to my old nightstand, opened the drawer, and pulled out the small wooden box I kept there. Inside were old notes, cards she'd written on our anniversaries, doodles she used to leave in my lunchbox. I sat on the edge of the bed, holding one from 3 years ago. It was a little piece of scrap paper with lipstick on the corner. I don't say it enough, but you make my world make sense. Love you forever. I didn't know what to do with it. Part of me wanted to rip it up. Another part wanted to keep it as proof that some version of her once meant it. I left it in the box, put the box in a bag. As I walked through the house for the last time, I took in all the little signs of what used to be a shared life. The scuff on the hallway baseboard from where we moved the couch in. The nail in the wall where our first photo had hung. The dent in the bathroom door from that time I accidentally slammed it open with the laundry basket. All little echoes. By the time I locked the door and walked to my truck, I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt empty. Not in a sad way. In a clean slate kind of way. Like there was nothing left worth holding on to. About a month after my last visit to the house, it officially sold. A modest profit. We split it, per the agreement. I didn't fight for more, even though I could have. I wanted to go out clean. After that, I didn't hear from Sierra for a while. She stopped messaging, stopped calling, stopped tagging me in those sad little nostalgic posts she'd started slipping into her feed. I figured she was regrouping, rebuilding her ego, maybe trying to start over somewhere else. I didn't care. But word travels, especially in a place like Tacoma. A mutual acquaintance, Mel, a woman we used to double date with back in the early years, sent me a message one night. Just a screenshot. Sierra's SPX content profile had been flagged and suspended. Too many complaints. Something about chargebacks and misleading promotion of content. Apparently, when the money started drying up, she got sloppy, reused photos, promised custom content she didn't deliver. The comments section was harsh. People accusing her of scamming, of being unresponsive, of editing old content and pretending it was new. And here's the kicker. One of the top complaints? A subscriber calling her out for pretending to be something she's not. The irony was so rich, I almost laughed out loud. Later, I found out through another friend, this time from one of Sierra's old photography circles, that she'd tried to go back to legitimate work, rebrand herself. But her name was now linked to her online persona, and word had spread. She lost a few bookings when clients made the connection. Nothing scandalous happened, no headlines, no public shaming, just a slow erosion of credibility. Turns out when your entire identity is built on smoke and mirrors, the moment someone opens a window, it all fades. But the real ending came one afternoon, a couple months later. I was sitting in my new place, same town, but closer to the bay. Peaceful quiet. I had just finished rewiring the kitchen and was feeling pretty proud of myself. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I don't usually answer those. but something told me to pick up. Neil, her voice said. It had been a while since I'd heard it, and even now, it caught me off guard. It was softer, strained. I wasn't sure you'd answer. I almost didn't. A pause. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Not the kind that fixes things. I know it's too late for that, but the kind you give when you finally understand. I said nothing. Let the silence do the talking. I lost everything, she continued. The money, the work, even the friends. Kayla and Jen dropped me once they realized I didn't have the clout anymore. I thought I was building something, but I was just standing on sand. I let her speak, not out of sympathy, but because I wanted to see if she could make it through without blaming someone else. She did. No begging, no bargaining, just that simple, deflated acknowledgement of truth. I didn't just mock you, she said quietly. I mocked what I couldn't understand. You were steady. I thought that meant boring. I didn't realize it was real. I didn't realize how rare that is. Still, I said nothing. I could hear the wind on her end. She must have been outside. I know you won't ever forgive me. I just needed to say it. I ended the call without another word. Because there was nothing left to say. She had finally said the truth. She knew what she had lost. And I didn't need to gloat, or yell, or get revenge in some dramatic way. The truth itself was revenge. Quiet, complete, and impossible to escape. She had gambled with something solid and real in exchange for temporary validation, and she lost. I, on the other hand, walked away lighter, stronger, wiser. Still me, just upgraded. Now, I come home to peace. I make my dinner in silence, or sometimes to the sound of the bay outside. I sleep better, laugh more, and I've started seeing someone new. Nothing serious yet, but she's kind, honest. No filters, no curated personas. Just someone who enjoys long walks and quiet mornings. Funny how, in the end, the best revenge wasn't ruining her. It was simply removing myself and watching her ruin her own damn castle. All I had to do was walk away and let gravity do the rest. My wife secretly sold explicit pics online, mocked me behind my back while I was unknowingly her top-paying subscriber. I found out, cut her off financially, and let her life unravel. She lost everything. I moved on, peacefully, quietly, and completely.